Welcome to the program. It's going to be an abbreviated show, obviously, because we were just listening, I guess the last 50 minutes or so, we were listening to President Trump from the state of Georgia, Marietta, Georgia, I think, at a high school there. So we can discuss that if we want. Let us know what you think about it in the chat. But we're also going to talk a little bit about what's going on with the war in Iran. We haven't really talked about that. The Washington Post, there's a lot of different ways to look at this. The Washington Post is reporting that the CIA is saying that a lot of the bombing that's going on right now is actually not weakening Iran's position in terms of what the cards are, because as you and I well know, the cards really have to do with topography and geography and that sort of thing. So we'll talk about that, but also the Washington Post is traditionally used to disseminate whatever the CIA thinks. I mean, it is an intelligence oligarch mouthpiece, like most of the media is. So we're going to talk about that. We also have an update from this New Jersey story about the voter fraud, the illegal immigrants that voted or were registered to vote. Some of them did vote. The media is obviously trying to gaslight people into thinking that's no big deal or it's not happening. We do have, 6,000 that were registered, but President Trump says the number's closer to 36,000, 35,000, something like that. We have so much to talk about, and I don't think we're going to have enough time to do it, but so let's just get into it. I've got co-host Rob Spencer is back with us in studio. The show starts right now.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Hit you. I got you. You're ready. All right, welcome to the show, folks. Broadcasting from the state of Arkansas. We really do appreciate you being with us. And Rob Spencer's in seat number 2. Go.
Listen, I'm like a junkie. I've been having withdrawals.
I know you haven't been. I know you've been so busy.
Hit me right here in the vein. Listen, all the crap that's been happening over the last couple of days, all good grief. I mean, like literally twists and turns and all of this stuff. Trump is proven right again when we see this New Jersey stuff, and that's what they're willing to admit. Let's put that out there on the plate here. That's what they're willing to admit. Trump says it's much worse, and we all know that it's probably exponentially worse than what Trump even believes, because that's what he's just going off of what he can prove. What have they not caught? What have they not found with all of this stuff? And then, are we going to have an all-out war with Iran? This is a conflict at this point, but we're sort of trending toward this is going to be a prolonged war. I don't want that. I don't think anybody else wants that. But at the same time, like, what's our off-ramp? What is the off-ramp? Because when you're dealing with crazy, is there a true off-ramp? It's like arguing with a liberal at a liberal arts college who is majoring in gender studies, and you're trying to tell them the difference between men and women. That's what we're dealing with Iran. There's no rationale with it because they just don't want to work with the United States. So you got two options. I've talked about this ad nauseum. You got two options. You just walk away and just say, screw it. Whatever the hell they do to the world, not our fault, because the rest of the world's not willing to help us with this crap. We're trying to fix this crap sandwich here, and the rest of the world's not willing to help us with it. So we're just going to walk away from it and, screw you guys. We got enough oil here in the United States. We'll just do whatever the hell we want to do. Screw you guys, whatever. Option number 2 is, neutralize the threat. And the threat being, these guys are going to continue with this nuclear war aspirations. Are they going to get a nuclear war? Are they not? The threat of that. But look at what what they're doing with the Strait of Hormuz and affecting the global oil markets. I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm not sitting in the briefing rooms. Yeah. I don't know what to do. But I can tell you that something has to happen, or there's going to be a bloodbath in the midterms.
Well, yeah, exactly. And the fact of the matter is, neutralizing the threat. You have two options to, and whatever the end goal is, has not really been clearly articulated. But to neutralize the threat costs thousands of American lives to do it. In terms of a ground
nobody
force,
wants that, man. Nobody wants
literally,
that. We've already lost three service members.
There's over 100 have been injured.
Yeah.
Or You have some people thinking that they're positioning the narrative to actually drop a nuclear bomb. And if that,
dude, seriously,
no, I'm just telling you that it's. I know.
We got to stop a nuclear bomb from happening by dropping a nuclear bomb.
Right.
Come on, man.
And I think that, and again, I don't know. Like you said, like Iran's government is intentionally, what they project is intentionally kind of an organized chaos, and it's very decentralized. But if that were to ever happen, America, I believe, would lose whatever moral standing that we have left would be gone.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, they're not already. They're already not helping us,
right? In a way that I just don't think we would ever recover from. Personally.
Well, there's a certain level of who gives a damn. There's a certain level of who gives a damn. What do you care? We're the shining light on the hill here, but at the same point, like, I don't think we want to go down that road.
I don't either. And again, 7 million Christians live in Iran. 7 million Christians live in Iran.
You don't want to wop it. I mean, what's the population? What is it?
93 million.
93 million people live there. So, it's a fifth of the size of the United States.
And again, these cards were always the cards. There have been war games about this very scenario for a long time. And again, you get down to the topography of the country, and also it's the size of Western Europe. So,
Paul, I want to clarify something. Us being in a conflict is not going to cost the Republicans the midterms. Oil prices are going to cost the Republicans in the midterms because, folks, you and I, all the people in our chat, and then me and Paul, when we go cast our votes, we're going to be casting our votes for Republicans. We're going to be casting our votes for conservatives. That's a given. And then you got the lunatics on the left, the far left, that are vote blue no matter who, right? We know that those people exist. But there is a chasm of people who will vote either way in a midterm, or even if they won't, it's about turnout.
Yeah, staying home.
Correct. So if you have $4 a gallon for gasoline here in the state of Arkansas, which is a lot, it may be more in other places. I think it was $3.79 today. I can't remember exactly what it was, but let's call it $3.79. If you've got that here in the state of Arkansas with our low cost of living, what is it in other states? And if it's $4 a gallon and these people go to the ballot box, they're uninformed voters, folks. Let's just be honest. They're uninformed voters, and they're like, I'm not voting for what I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. And so a conservative, because we have all three right now, the Senate and the House and the presidency, we're going to have conservatives sitting home because we're not proudly going to say we've got to keep this going.
That's exactly what's going to happen.
It's exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be about voter turnout.
And then you do have a huge contingent of people that just their number one issue was American foreign policy, not wanting it to be the same.
There's some of that. Yeah, there's some of that. And I want to say this, Paul. I want to say, like, all of us looking through rose-colored glasses saying, oh, yeah, the midterms are going to be fine because of the redistricting and because, things are – they have not forgotten how bad things were under Joe Biden. You're fooling yourself, folks. People have forgotten how bad it was under Joe Biden. They're trying to revise history right now. They're telling us that they didn't make us wear masks.
Yeah.
They're trying to tell us that you didn't get fired if you didn't get the vaccine.
Yeah.
They're trying to tell us all of this. They're pissing on our legs and telling us that it's raining. Okay? They're doing that right now. So you want to sit here and tell me that people haven't forgotten? They have forgotten how bad it was. Any rational person, any reasonable person, any intelligent person realizes how bad it was under Joe Biden. We're going to continue to vote conservatively because all of our values are at stake, but also because, man, our lives are better off, even with slightly higher gas prices. They were really bad at one point under Joe Biden. We had 9% inflation. People have forgotten about that.
Yep.
They're blaming Trump about it right now.
And, they've done I think we got to do a better job. But, see, none of this is going to work. Like, I consider and say, well, you can say that inflation is now lower than it was, but the prices have still not come down, and they're not going to come down. And so explaining that to somebody Nobody cares about that, right? It is literally the phrase, well, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
And that's all that matters.
Tell me right now. Tell me, Republicans, conservatives in our chat, anybody that's watching, no matter what platform on, tell me right now, a conservative going to the polls, what do they got to hang their hat on? In my view, this is the only thing that is without question, and that is securing the border.
Right.
That is the only thing. Okay, now that is a big thing. I don't want to diminish that at all.
It is.
14 months straight without an illegal border crossing. That is monumental when you had hundreds of thousands, even millions of people pouring across the southern border. We were leaking like a sieve, man. Joe Biden just let all these people in because they're trying to replace their electorate because they're losing black people. They're losing blacks and Latinos. They were losing them. And so they let all of these other people in. Hey, we're going to give you a driver's license. We're going to give you all this stuff, allow you to vote, all of that stuff. We were leaking like a sieve. But I can tell you this, that one issue, because Republicans we're a coalition. We're not a single issue thing like the Democrats with their damn abortion.
Right.
We're not a single issue party. Okay, that one thing may not be enough, and I feel like it's not going to be enough to get conservatives off of their butts to go vote in a midterm when they are paying $4 a gallon for gas.
Yeah, I mean, Fox News may not cover it. They may not cover things, but what you can say about people on the right is that, especially the diehards, right, like that we read the news, we don't just take Fox News' word for it, right? So
sure.
if you vote for, let's say, a lot of deportations and then you pull out of Minnesota, people are disappointed in that. Now, Fox News may not report on how people are disappointed in that, but that's certainly the case. When you vote for mass deportations and then you say, okay, well, yeah, we're going to do the violent criminals, which everybody is for, but we can't do the farm workers and we can't do the hospitality workers because that lobby has the White House's ear. People take note of that and they're disappointed in that. The latest farm bill actually grants an amnesty for farm workers that meet a certain criteria. And Republicans are going to support this. And they say, well, you don't support our farmers. Our farmers are asking for this. The American people, especially those on the right, that are not mindless zombies, that actually do read and have a long memory. You talk about not motivating the base. When we have had, I said this yesterday, 3 elections where the people have voted for Donald Trump, and I count 2020. Obviously,
sure.
Joe Biden did not get 80 million votes.
Sure.
This is a policy that the country has now voted for in 3 presidential elections.
Yes,
which is obviously secure the border, great,
yep.
but also stop. We've got to have the deportations. We cannot allow our country to be
every time.
So for the base to come back, or the RNC basically to come back and say still not going to give it to you. People are taking note of that, and then you add the Middle East war again and everything else, and people are demoralized.
I don't mean to.
It is what
besmirch,
it is.
I don't mean to besmirch
End
our
the
listeners
war and focus
whatsoever.
on. I mean, their last chance is to get out of this conflict.
Yeah.
And to focus on domestic stuff. Now, I think the New Jersey story is a great idea.
Yeah.
Like, we need 50 more of those stories about illegals that have voted.
And some of these people were in our comments are alluding to this as well. Could we also can we not have it on repeat leading up for the next 5 months, 4 months, whatever it is leading up to November? Repeat of all of the what about Joe Biden's speech? Standing with the red background.
Yeah, dark MAGA or whatever.
Dark MAGA. It could not have been more satanic when he's sitting there villainizing half the country.
Yeah.
Calling us a threat to democracy, calling us a threat. You are literally putting crosshairs on people like you and I. They killed Charlie. They tried to kill Donald Trump. That kind of mentality, that kind of speech, that kind of rhetoric was so prevalent over the 4 years. Every damn thing that happened, that went wrong, that went sideways in the Biden administration, was blamed on Donald Trump. Even in 2023, 2024, like Donald Trump hasn't been president for 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
You're blaming Donald Trump for this crap.
Right. Point being, though, in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination and all of the celebratory stuff, and obviously I still have questions about the official narrative. I'm going to wait and let the court proceedings, I want to see everything, and I want to know what the government's going to do with it before I have any sort of, critique. I still have a problem with the whole 30 out 6 thing. Anyway, as a deer hunter. But everybody thought, okay, they've gone too far now. Believing the official narrative, that it was a troon that did this or a troon adjacent person that did this, and then everybody that was celebrating it was like, okay, we're finally going to do it. We're going to use the hard power that we have. We're going after the people funding radical left-wing groups. We're going to go after the ones funding the violent ones. We're going and we're still sitting here waiting for the government to actually make the modern iteration of the Democrat Party illegal. And that's in the fact that it hasn't happened as fast as we like, and some may argue not even at all. Has demoralized us.
Right. Well, think about what it is. Think about what the Democratic Party stands for at this point. When AOC and Bernie Sanders are not far enough left, what the hell are you doing as a Democratic Party? When AOC and Bernie Sanders, which used to be the extreme wing of your party, they are not left enough. They're not left enough. It's what you have done is you have fed the monster. You keep feeding that monster. You didn't discipline it. Right? Let's go with the dog. Right? I love dogs. I'm a dog owner. If I see a video of somebody, abusing a dog, it makes me more angry than a human being, and I'm just sorry. That's just unless it's a kid.
Right.
If it's a kid, that's number 1. A dog, number 2. An adult, number 3. That's my level of anger when I see videos of abuse. Okay? Maybe it's right or maybe it's wrong. I don't care. But I can tell you that's what it is. When I see someone abusing an animal, it infuriates me. But let's go back to training a dog. You cannot just give your dog whatever the hell they want. Okay? They're like a child. Especially when they're younger, they're like a child. But what the Democrat Party has done is when that dog was a puppy, they let him crap in the house. Sorry, I censored myself. They let them poop all over the house, pee all over the house. They didn't discipline them. They had unlimited food in their bowl. They got a 200-pound, Rottweiler that they have let eat you out of house and home, and they're pooping and peeing all over the house because you have not given them discipline. That's what the Democrat Party has done with the socialist/communist wing of their party. They have let them do whatever the hell they want to do, and they've encouraged them. They've gotten on the podiums. We want to go with Mondani. We want to elect a terrorist to be the mayor of a city that encountered a terrorist attack. That's what we're going to do as a Democrat Party. We're going to go down this road of socialist, Democrat, what do they call them? Democratic socialist, communist, whatever, anarchist. That's what the hell they are. We're going to go down that road, and we're going to let those people speak for our party. The Chuck Schumers are freaking closer to an independent at this point. The only reason that he's as left as he is because he's trying to hold on to his position of power. The AOCs, the Bernie Sanders, are now not left enough, Paul, when you think about that. Did you think that would happen 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago? No, we didn't. Because you just fed that dog whatever it wanted. You just let it crap all over everything.
Right.
And you let that monster grow.
And you've got, again, our government is still infiltrated with communists as well. So to the point of the lack of discipline, lack of accountability, the intel oligarchy, all of that stuff works hand in glove. The reason I've left this, the oil price, $86.46, up on the screen is because I had this thought and I wanted to ask you because I don't know if I've noticed it, but I did see some report where that gas prices may be as low as they are, even though they're up. But they may be as low as they are because they've been diluted maybe with more of a higher ethanol blend without some people knowing.
Man, I don't know. I hadn't been following.
Well,
that.
I didn't. I just heard one story. This was weeks ago. One story about that, and I just wanted to put that out there to the only way you'd probably be able to tell is if you look at your gas mileage, and so just be on the lookout for that because that actually may be something that's going on.
I was corrected, and King Watts. I will go with you. I will agree with you on King Watts. King Watts brought up. They said a child first. Yep, number one. I agree with you on that. A veteran or our elders, like elderly folks.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Number two.
Speaking of veterans.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And then animals, and then able-bodied adults. But anyway.
Speaking of we forgot to do this, but speaking of veterans, I want to remind everybody that the Paul Harrell program is powered by the Healing Veterans Project. And this is
incredible.
I mean, we're really excited about this. We're really excited to announce healingveteransproject.us. This is a nonprofit organization. You guys have heard me talk about it this week, but nonprofit organization that's just dedicated to giving veterans non-pharmaceutical intervention, red light therapy specifically. We've got a list of veterans that have been prescribed red light devices by doctors, and of course the VA will not give them to. They'll give them opioids, Vicodin, Percocet, drug them up, but they won't give them this incredible technology. And so,
listen, what you've got, Paul, and I don't mean to interrupt you here. You got well-to-do, wealthy ladies who have done the research on red light therapy and anti-aging, anti-pain, disc degeneration, we talked about with Matt Troy, a lot of veterans, especially if they were Vietnam veterans, dealing with Agent Orange and the neuropathy, how they can't even make a strong fist, they can't open their hand all the way, that manifests itself a lot of times like arthritis and all of that stuff. And you've got the possibility there to heal them without just drugging them up.
Yep.
To give them relief. And it just pisses me off that the VA has not even taken a look at this. I really want Robert Kennedy Jr. to take a look at this.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something. I actually sat in on a call with one of these veterans that has been trying almost a year to get the VA to approve one of these panels. And it was a heartbreaking call, and I listened to their story, and we're going to actually have them on the show. They're actually the first in line to get one of these panels because we just started being able to take money last week is when we just started being able to accept donations.
Sure.
And it's just heartbreaking. And finally, the VA is basically like, no, they're not They're now no longer responding. They're done. They're not going to
give them a drug.
Right.
Hey, drug yourself up there, veteran.
Exactly.
Yeah, just drug yourself up. Live in a haze.
So,
come on, man. That's not fixing anything.
Here's the deal. You see it right there, healingveteransproject.us, and you go there and you click the donate button. Sign up for monthly donations if you can, is what we encourage you to do. But I have other news on this because maybe you guys can't donate or maybe you're $5'd out. I get it. Here's the deal. And this is for the LFA audience and anybody else listening. If you have a retail business or you know somebody that has a retail business.
Somebody that has like a boutique, a clothing boutique or
exactly.
something. Yeah.
We want to partner with you and we want to integrate a donation option for your customers at point of sale, at checkout, and we can do that. We can make that happen. And if you're interested in that at all, the email is right there on the lower third. Paul, I want you to email me at paul@healingveteransproject.us. That's PAUL at healingveteransproject.us, because we've got a list of different options where we can make that happen for you. And by the way, we can also even help if you were to incur some sort of startup cost or something like that. So just so you know, that's really what you could do. If you can't donate today, you can reach out to us if you have a business or you know somebody that has a retail business, because this is how we can really help the veterans and we can get stuff rolling in quickly to let people know. We can give you the literature, the brochures, and all of that stuff so you can tell your customers what exactly it is. Non-pharmaceutical intervention that the VA doesn't want to cover, this charity is there to cover.
So, Paul, I'm going to give you a story, and it's from Darlene, Darlene in our chat. Darlene, thank you so much for telling us this. This is incredible. It's incredibly tragic, honestly. Years ago, my nephew, this is what she writes. Years ago, my nephew had just finished boot camp. He came home, and he got in an accident. He was paralyzed because they drugged him, and he is still addicted.
Wow.
You know, I got him. They got him addicted, so he stopped trying. You know, and listen, Darlene, I'm so sorry to hear that, but it's unfortunate too that is one of a million tales of these veterans who come home. They got PTSD. They're dealing with all this shit, man. They went overseas. They saw the horrors of this, or just being in the military where they break you down and they try to build you back up into this war fighting machine. Those are positives until you actually go over there and you see it, and you see babies being blown apart, and you see your fellow servicemen and women with their legs blown off and their arms blown off, or they're totally killed and all that stuff. And you got to come home and you got to sleep at night. You got to sleep at night. And what is the VA's option for that? You know, I know that they're doing the best they can do. I'm not trying to rip on the VA, but their technology is so old. They're like, give you a pill. Here's a pill. And then people that truly need it, like my best friend's dad, who has strong anxiety, he has to go through a million different avenues to get a Xanax that will calm his anxiety.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like you're just drugging people up when they don't need it, and the people that do need it because they got strong anxiety, maybe, like that intervention could help. Why are you not looking at all options at this point?
And interestingly enough, and we need to look in this for your friend's dad, but I mean, red light can also, it has anti-anxiety effects as well. So we need to get him hooked up with Healing Veterans as well. So anyway, you're gonna hear a lot about it. HealingVeteransProject.us, and we're proud to be partnered with them, and I'm actually on the board now of Healing Veterans. So
well, it's just because you believe in it, Paul. It's not just a thing where like, oh yeah, I'll be on this board. I mean, once we listen to Matt Troy talk about, you know, the mission that they're undergoing here, I mean, it just makes it just makes too much sense.
Yeah,
it
does.
So
it really does. Especially, you know, I believe in the red light therapy. Obviously, we sell red light panels here on this show. This is a great way to get a great technology that is for some reason considered Eastern medicine, which is wild to me. Yeah, I mean, Western the way I have characterized it is I think it's just a difference between biophysics and biochemistry. I think Western medicine is more focused on biochemistry, and maybe the Eastern medicine is more focused on biophysics, or I don't know. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
Well, I had, you know, I will say this really quickly too, that they weren't veterans, but my younger sisters struggled with addiction to pain medication. For a lot of their lives, they lost custody of their children to family. Like, we kept them in the family, but they lost custody as their parent, and they just couldn't kick the habit. You know, they're twins. My younger sisters, they're about 40 years old, I think, at this point, and both of them, one of them has been clean for 3 years, and one of them has been clean for 2.5 years. And so I thank God every day that they you know, had that avenue, but both instances started with some sort of injury, and it was about 5 years apart. Where you know, one of them was in a car accident, and the other one, I can't remember what her situation. I can't remember what she did, but anyway, so they got prescribed pain medicine, and they get addicted. They get these opioids in their system. It's just so highly addictive, and then they start stealing money from my mother. You know, it just turns them into a different person. They start stealing money from my mother, and you know, and buying these you know, legal narcotics off of the street. And you don't even know what's in it. At this point, you know, at today's age, it could be fentanyl. And so I'm so proud of them for getting clean. But they're one of the rare instances that has turned the tide here. Most of them don't. They just keep going down this rabbit hole, and it's addiction for the rest of their life. Can we offer solutions? Yep. And you think a red light panel that's going to throw some red light on you just going to be like, oh, yeah, that's going to be the solution? The science is there, folks. I've done the research myself. And when you've got these extremely wealthy ladies that are doing the science because it helps with anti-aging and all this stuff, it's just incredible how it stimulates your red blood cells and all of this stuff. I don't want to sound like a broken record. I'm not paid to say this. I'm just trying to say the technology is there. Why are we just drugging people up?
That's a great point. That's a good point. Good way to leave it. So this was the title, thumbnail of the show. We're just now getting to it. Zero Hedge has this story. CIA distances itself from Trump's Iran war with a media leak. Interesting twist. So this was the Washington Post that initially reported on this. Tyler Durden says over at Zero Hedge, it seems that the CIA and other U.S. intelligence officials hope to distance themselves from Trump's Iran war, now with the U.S.-initiated conflict having dragged on for nearly 5 months with no end in sight after the White House after White House officials had in the opening days touted a swift, limited military excursion. They are leaking intelligence to the press, which shows they have assessed that current American strikes on Iran are unlikely to change Iran's negotiating position. With tankers in Hormuz on fire and others too afraid to move, Iran is vowing that it will keep its leverage over the strait at all costs. The Washington Post says that Iran's government is unlikely to feel significant impact or soften its negotiating position as a result of new rounds of U.S. military strikes like those now underway, according to new intelligence assessment described by current and former U.S. officials. To a large degree, the intel assessment is stating the obvious, which should have been well understood far in advance. It seems intel officials want to get it on record that they predict a quagmire as the White House seeks to extricate itself and the global economy from the crisis of its own making in the Gulf. Escalation in airstrikes will only further stalemate the situation, the intel analysis forecast. This is exactly the type of stuff that the intel oligarchy does.
Yeah.
Get you pulled into a war and then position themselves to basically put it all on your shoulders, blame it all on you. I mean, and on paper, that's exactly that's what the chain of command is. I mean,
what's that do?
It's called the commander in chief.
Yeah.
But this was exactly the danger from the beginning, and not just the political consequences of it, which we were just talking about with the midterms and everything else, but you have potentially a very long. I mean, they say that we could be in there for the next year, potentially. And again, then you have people that want ground troops. Then you have people that just want to nuke them all, which is again insane. I don't know. I think your number one option, you should just walk away. You should just walk away at this point,
man.
And say whatever it is you got to say, but
it's hard.
Just walk away.
It's hard. It's like being, this is not a great analogy, but this is what pops into my head. But it's like being at the car dealership, and you've been there for 3 hours trying to negotiate this deal. You're trying to get it done. Every time you think you've got a deal complete, they go back. Well, we can't do it that way. We can do it this way, and all this stuff. And every time you think you're good to go. Yeah, the deal keeps changing.
Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back
in, right? And I obviously this when you're talking about lives at stake and versus a car dealership, but I think a lot of folks, and they wouldn't be wrong to think this is just like, hey, just leave the dealership, man. Yeah, just leave the dealership. Just walk out. Walk out, and maybe when you walk out, maybe you get a better deal. In this case, that's not right. What's going to happen because that's what Iran wants, But I don't know, man.
Listen to this.
I don't know.
Here's President Trump being asked about the war. Listen.
Well, Americans aren't against the war. A poll just came out. Americans don't want high gasoline prices, but they're not against the war. That just came out loud and clear.
Okay, so So he's saying that Americans are not against the war. Now,
I wish they'd play that music a little louder in the back.
Yeah, right. I know. Sorry, I could have found a better clip. My apologies. But
no, sorry.
So Mark Mitchell, who has broken away from Rasmussen Reports, and he's founded his own polling company, Honest Pollster. By the way, there's a big story there. Rasmussen early on.
Mark Mitchell is.
Yeah, he's really
for my money. He's as good as it gets.
Yeah, I appreciate his honesty. Mark Mitchell though was with Rasmussen, but the donors behind Rasmussen started to limit the type of polling reporting he was doing. This is
That makes no sense. Rasmussen was about the most accurate.
I know, but the polling he was doing was valuable information, showing the president or showing people in the White House that wanted to listen. Hey, people don't want the war. I mean, it was surrounding. It's not just about the war, but it's a lot of things, domestic issues, and everything else. And so he went away and actually vanished as a Rasmussen pollster. He went silent for like a couple of months, and people started asking questions. Where's Mark? Well, it was obvious that he was being controlled, or was being told to tone it down. So now he has got his new this new polling operation, and so. He actually has some insight into the type of polls that President Trump could have been shown, and how they may have been manipulated based on their questioning. So he says he's being shown results that had heavily primed questions like, quote, President Trump ordered the U.S. military to destroy Iran's nuclear program and take out the Ayatollah regime. Support or oppose the Iran attack? ? Now there's a lot of people that are going to say, "Oh yeah, I support that." Yeah. But the question is not, do you support a longer conflict in Iran? Do you want boots on the ground? That sort of thing.
If we were in a court of law, objection, leading the witness.
Right, exactly.
That's kind of what Mark is saying here is that it's a very leading poll question,
right?
And so therefore, if you took off support or oppose the Iranian attack, like if you took off the preface there, he's insinuating almost all out saying that the poll results would be different.
Right. And again, we don't know if that's the specific poll that Donald Trump was given, but
but
he's been tweeting a lot about the way the polling questions are being crafted.
I agree with a lot of people in our comments as well. Like I'm sick of this Iranian regime. I'm not a big fan of regime change wars, for the simple fact that it just seems like even if you get that regime out of power, another one rises, right? A phoenix from the ashes kind of thing. But how long? I mean, it's 50 years. Iran has been just waging war and terror on the West, and could you look at it and say, if we got rid of this threat, would we have a certain level of peace? Might be naive to think that.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly. I mean, that's what happened with Iraq. That's what happens. You go in, you destabilize it.
You're just like,
you're
in
a sectarian civil war. It's really great for defense contractors because you're now in another 30-year war. I mean, that's the thing. My generation, at least, we've seen this play out over and over and over again. And so, there are countries that are going to hate us and finance terror against us. That's true, right? That's true. But you have to be realistic about, can we even do anything about that in terms of go at the source, cut the head off of the snake? Here is a CNN poll. I've seen CNN polls. That are talking about how President Trump is the most popular that he's been.
I'm gonna give a lot of credit to CNN. They seem to be doing some.
Well, I don't know. That's the thing. It's like I think it's all over the place. But we did have.
Well,
this.
I've gotten up.
I think the war was worth it. Iraq in 2006, 58% said it was not worth it. And again, that was 3 years into that war. Look at this now. You think that 58% was high in terms of not worth it? 68% of Americans, more than 2 in 3, say the Iran war was not worth it. Just 28.
Well, that's the thing. It's still going on?
Yeah. So here's the thing I will say is that 26. You think about 2006. What were we dealing with? We were dealing with lead into the housing crisis. Okay, and the housing bubble burst in 2006, 2007, 2008, somewhere around in there, and so excuse me. We were dealing with that. And then we got up to, I remember in Bush 2.0, like George W. Bush's second term, it's the first time I ever saw $4 a gallon gas. Mm-hmm. And now this was 20 years ago. So $4 a gallon of gas was like way worse.
Yeah, back then.
Yeah, because that was huge. And I remember it didn't stay there very long. And then, but the thing going around was like, okay, well, do you know that George W. Bush owns oil stocks? He's an oil man from Texas. So he doesn't care about these high oil prices. And I remember it was something like $150 a barrel for oil, And so anyway, I say all that to say that, that's a tough comparison, the Iraq thing versus the Iran thing, because I think that, we were leading out of President Bush's very high popularity. Well, then that stuff started to fade down, right? So he had like a 90% approval rating after 9/11, right? You remember that?
Yeah.
So after 9/11, he had like a 90% approval rating. And so when you think about 90% of the people approved of the president, that means Democrats were approving of George W.
Right.
Bush, right? And then what do? We started to see a decline there because of the economy. And so I think I would be willing to wager that it's not so much that these people are anti-war going to sit on a rocket like Jane Fonda, in Vietnam.
I think you're right about that.
I think they're seeing the price they're paying at the pump.
I think you're right at that. It's not just the price at the pump, but it is that. It's just also putting food on the table. It's also the grocery store prices. It's also
kitchen table issues,
and all of the you got Wall Street that is wants to talk about how great things are for them. There is, it's not a left-wing talking point that things are not affordable for a lot of people.
It's a fact.
The affordability crisis is real. It's a real thing, and you can't just tell people it's not.
Yeah. Well, I control my...
And again, you go back to the first 5 months, going to get rid of the IRS, going to have all these refund checks or whatever from Doge. Like, things were amazing. Those were great. We don't hear so much about that anymore. We don't hear about... now we are hearing it with New Jersey and everything else, but instead we're not critical. Like the White House should be hammering John Thune
Sure.
every single day. But instead, and you can talk about the wisdom of this or not, but this was President Trump's truth over on Truth Social. He posted about the death toll. He says, these are the real facts, report them. And if you see that there, he's saying that the Vietnam War, we had 19 years and 58,000 dead. Korean War was 3 years and 36,000 dead. Iraq War, 946. Afghanistan, 20 years, 2,000 dead. And the Iran military conflict, we've been going for 4 months and 18 dead. Venezuela War, one day, 0 dead. And I don't think this is a winning message at all.
I don't either.
This is.
Well, do the math. So if
it
you
doesn't
did,
even. It's like this isn't something to brag about. Out of all the wars, I get the least amount of people killed. There are people that don't want anybody dead in the Middle East, right?
8. So look at that red 18. Okay, the rest of them were wars, right? Because he's now said that this is a conflict.
Yes. Notice, the verbiage there.
But the Venezuelan war, was that a war?
No, that was just more like an exercise.
Dude, it was a military operation.
Yeah,
I love Trump. I love him. But that is not the dig that he thinks it is. It is not the slam that he thinks it is. And I get what he's trying to say here. But look at the Afghanistan war. I'm not. This is quick math. 4 months divided by 18 deaths. 20 years times 12, whatever that is, okay, divided by 2,000 deaths. It might literally be the same percentage. Mm-hmm. Now, I've not done this. You got some math people in our groups here that might check this or whatever. Could be worse. Heck, I don't know. Could be worse. Yep. But I'm just saying that's not a good trend. This Iranian military conflict is not a good trend. Because they could have had a nuclear weapon. But we've seen these clips, Paul, going all the way back to George W. Bush, Hillary Clinton when she was running for president in 2008, Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton when she was running in 2016. All of these people saying, if Iran has nuclear aspirations, if they are close to getting a nuclear weapon, the United States will get involved militarily. All of them said it. Donald Trump sees that. But that means that Iran has been trying to get
Exactly.
or almost about to get.
It's weapons of mass destruction all over again. It's literally Iraq all over again.
And that's not
exactly
this
what
is not an anti-Trump thing.
Nope. It is
This
what it
not.
is. It is what it is.
This is not an anti-Trump thing. This is, they've been trying to do this for a long time. Were they that close? Were there weapons of mass destruction? I don't know. But I can tell you that I'm tired of paying $3.80 for a gallon of gas here in Arkansas.
Yeah, and then you look
Sick
at the
of
point
it.
like, okay, well, once what this is really about is like a North Korea. Like nobody's invading North Korea. You know why? Because they have nuclear weapons. That's why.
There you go.
So even if they were close, of course, this is all done on the predication that if they have them, they will use them, and that's what the administration still thinks. Like, if they had them, they're going to use them. And the laws of self-preservation, and I know this maybe is too much of a Western thought. I don't think the laws of self-preservation dictate that. I really don't. It'd be the end of your civilization. For the same reason that I don't think Bashar al-Assad actually gassed his own people, but what do I know? But, this is...
I mean, I don't know. Is it... You can... I don't understand it, because you can go on YouTube right now, and there are videos on how to make a nuclear weapon.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I've not looked them up, but
No, I haven't looked them up either.
I'm told they exist. Now, here's the other thing. I don't know if it's real.
Yeah, is it real?
Yeah,
that's
I don't know if it's real.
There's also videos of time machines. You can go how to build your own time machine.
Is that right?
I'm
Yeah.
sure there
there's
are.
that
There was
too.
some movie about that
Yeah.
years ago.
I just think here's what I feel like. I believe that the military-industrial complex has given Trump bad intel. That's what I believe from the very beginning, because Donald Trump is an anti.
Yeah.
He's anti-war. He doesn't want this
There were
stuff.
also reports that the intel also was from Israel too, and that it was bad.
Could be that.
Because you had the New York Times story that said that even Rubio and J.D. Vance were like, we can take out the Ayatollah, but what happens after you take out the Ayatollah? We can take out anybody in the world if we want to. But
sure, but I also think that there are people here on United States soil that benefit from war.
100%.
When we were sending, we didn't see a whole lot of consternation about Iran when we were sending billions of dollars to Ukraine. Okay, so we're sending all this money over to Ukraine to try to delay this inevitable war where Russia's going to win. Right, the military-industrial complex rejoiced. They loved it. They were like, "Oh yes, this is red meat for us. We're getting big, huge paydays." Once that died down with Trump, hey, I'm not sending you any more money. Where's our next thing? Iran's about to get a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, after we pulled out of Afghanistan.
Tell me that's not viable. Tell me that's not possible.
Right.
Okay? Because Iran has been close to a nuclear weapon for 20 years.
Since the 90s. I mean, they've got
30 years.
Yeah, we've got people out there since the 90s saying
so
that. Benjamin
I'm
Netanyahu.
not saying that that's not the case, because I don't know. But I can tell you, if it's not the case, then Trump just got bad intel, because Trump's no fool.
Right.
Trump is no fool, and he's not going to go into Iran just because he's friends with Israel, no matter what anybody believes. That's my belief. Okay, maybe I'm wrong on that, but that's my belief. I don't believe that he's going in on behalf of Israel just because he knows that that's going to cost him politically. He said no new wars. He said it 1,000,000 times. So he knows that's going to cost him politically. I believe that Donald Trump truly believed that they were close to a nuclear weapon, and maybe they were. But I also believe how strong that military-industrial complex and that wheel turning, the Lindsey Grahams, God rest his soul, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, advocating for all of these wars because the money is flowing.
Well, you said something that really struck a nerve with me. You said bad intelligence. So that to my previous point about how this all just feels like Iraq, and then you just mentioned Lindsey Graham. Here is an old clip of President Trump talking about Lindsey Graham.
Okay,
listen to this. I wasn't going to play this, but then you brought up Lindsey Graham. So
see, Lindsey Graham just said of your remarks that you made in the Oval Office that if you keep talking like that, quote, this will be a disaster worse than Obama's decision to leave Iraq.
No, Lindsey Graham would like to stay in the Middle East for the next 1,000 years with thousands of soldiers and fighting other people's wars. I want to get out of the Middle East.
So, again, to your
What
point,
happens,
he said this over and over. Now, Do we have ground troops? No, but there are plenty of people saying this is the only option now. And again, ground troops will result in a lot of dead Americans.
Yeah.
And then by the way, also, I mean, I know we've got a lot of Marines over there and everything else, but in terms of like an army, like, I don't think a lot of people realize like how low our armed forces are when it comes to like ground troops in the Army are. They're actually not. The money hasn't been going there for a while, and that's because most of our this is just the way I understand it. Most of our preparations for war has been with China and places like that, or maybe even Russia. But mainly China. And the fact is, like, any sort of large ground force can be seen for days away, and they're going to get blown up. So it's all about drones. It's all about potentially Marine excursionary units or something like that. But I don't think we really even have the forces to do a multi-year ground invasion. I think if you did do some sort of ground invasion, which I do not support, it's going to be much more tactical and a lot fewer soldiers than say like Iraq.
I don't think we're going to have like desert storm.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's the other thing. Where do you stage it? This is the other thing. This is the problem with the topography.
Where's the battleground?
Where do you stage and amass your forces? Right. We had places to do that with Iraq. We don't have that with. You don't have that with Iran. And then you've got the mountains. The topography is an absolute nightmare, and it is what it is. In other news, though, and this may be some sort of, I don't know if it's a carrot or what, but President Trump has reportedly approved an agreement to let Saudi Arabia potentially enrich uranium and provide them with a civilian nuclear program. According to the Wall Street Journal, a 30-year deal is worth tens of billions of dollars, and American companies would have a huge role. An enrichment facility could eventually be built with United States control. So I don't know. This comes out of nowhere. This is interesting. A lot of people suspected that there would be a lot of other Gulf states that are going to try to get nuclear weapons, in the grand scheme of things, that this whole conflict could kind of start a domino effect where that happens. I don't know, or maybe it's some sort of carrot saying, hey, if you play nice, if you want a nuclear program, this is how you get it. You have to be nice to the United States. I don't know, but this is just another piece of news that it's another data point, and I'm not really sure what to make of it, And so that is the end of the Middle East segment for today. I
want to address one comment in our. Oops, sorry, I lost my thing there. I want to address one comment in there, like, where do you get this crap in ground invasion from Liberty? Where's the end of this? Let me ask you this. And I'm not trying to go to battle with one of our people.
I don't understand the comment.
What we were talking about is, like, if we were going to stage a ground invasion, where would it be?
Okay, right.
Yeah, and they're like, ground invasion. Where would you get this crap? And like we're thinking 3 or 4 steps ahead here, because where we at right now, we're doing aerial assaults here. We're doing with drones. We're doing all of this stuff. And what do? They keep popping up, because they're everywhere. They're not. They're
decentralized, and they got
right,
and they're a conventional military.
Right,
and they're a 1,000,000-man army too, by the way.
Correct, and 1 million, right? And so we're not this. It's not colonial days where we're lining up.
Right.
In single file rows here on the battlefield and shooting each other, taking turns shooting each other. That's not what this war is. This war is going to be fought in the trenches. It's going to be fought in the mountains. It's going to be fought in their homeland. And so what is the end result? You just say, why you're never going to send ground troops in there? I don't want to go after one of our people. I appreciate you watching. But you think that's never an option? We already have ground troops there. They're already there. It's just whether they get the call to go in and whether more will be allowed to go in there. They're already there. We have ground troops in Ukraine. Did you know that? Did you know that we have ground troops in Ukraine? They are there. I met a guy who just came back from Ukraine. He lives here in Jonesboro. They are there. But you didn't know that because we haven't talked about the fact that there are ground troops there. This is our brothers, our sisters, our uncles, our cousins, our friends. This is what we're doing to go in there to keep them from getting a nuclear weapon. Now, if they are close to getting a nuclear weapon, I completely agree. Iran with a nuclear weapon would cause chaos against. If that is the truth, then I don't know what links I would agree to go to, but I can just say you're naive if you don't think that we're about to have another Afghanistan 2.0. Okay?
You mean that it's a very high probability, and once you send ground troops in there, you're there for the long haul.
You're there for the long haul,
yeah.
and you can do it with drones mostly. And George H.W. Bush did a lot without sending ground troops in there, but ground troops came.
And it's an interesting thing about that too, because
are you ready for that?
No.
Are you willing to do it?
No, I'm not. My generation's not. The young people aren't. It is what it is. I mean, and we may be wrong. I don't think we are, but the Republican Party coalition has got a lot of soul searching to do when it comes to you're never going to convince the younger generation that we need to continue what we've been doing in the Middle East. But it is interesting about the whole drone thing, because we've spent all of this money on aircraft carriers, right? And that's kind of the conventional warfare aircraft carriers and everything else. But when you look at the Strait of Hormuz, these aircraft carriers cannot get close enough to really drop off these ground troops. This comes back to the staging argument, right? And then you've got Iran that have put all their technology into these missiles and all these drones. And the New York Post reporting that one of the downed pilots from months ago, the swarm of drones that was moving in tandem. I don't know if you read that report.
No.
It sounded like something, and according to the pilot, was reported that it was like alien technology to them, that these drones swarmed the plane and were able to move and created some sort of shape, and were able to move. So, and we're not going to be told anything that doesn't show us as having the most superior military. And obviously we got the bombs, we're dropping them, and
Sure.
yet the CIA has the memo now saying, yeah, but is this actually weakening their cards? Is it weakening their negotiating position? Yeah. And because of the topography, and it's very ironic, it's the reversal of where the Persians are using the hot gates Thermopylae against the West, whereas Leonidas used it against the Persians. It's kind of a modern-day version of that. But I'm going to give you another take on this, because I know we're very critical of the status quo. But here's another take. Here's Bill Mitchell, and he is I don't know who this guy is. That's not Bill Mitchell, but it's some other guy. I'm sorry to not know who this is. Senator Haggerty. Senator Haggerty is explaining that there's actually a 5D chess thing behind this, or
I hope there is
some sort of genius.
Listen, I'll say this before you play it. I'm inclined to trust Trump on stuff. Although I disagree with some of his stuff, I'm not going to blindly follow him. If he has intel, I trust Trump's decision making. What I'm trying to say is I don't necessarily trust the intel that he was given.
I mean, the CIA is now saying they're distancing themselves from this whole thing, and it's like, now here's the albatross, take it. But here's Haggerty, so a different perspective than what we've been covering, just to kind of try to give you guys another perspective.
Of course, the Israelis demonstrated this. The Iranians never stopped their program. They've always been in pursuit of a nuclear weapon, and all we wound up doing, again, in 2020 hindsight, was giving the funds to instigate more terrorism and put them back on the path with a little bit of a timeline to have a nuclear weapon. You come forward and you think about what drove the decision for President Trump at the time that he made the decision. It was mathematics. The Iranians figured out if they could continue to build more cheap ballistics, more cheap drones, at some point they could overwhelm conventional capabilities to take them out. And you know what our capability is, exquisite. But when, a ballistic missile comes in, we've got, extraordinary technology that can take it out.
Yeah, that's the THAAD missiles?
In the Patriot systems. We've got several systems that will do it, but they're quite expensive, and the timeline to reproduce them is significantly longer than
the conflict becomes asymmetrical because they can produce all these cheap.
And you look at the pace that they're producing these cheap, these cheap ballistics, And at some point, you realize they can, if they overwhelm our ability to stop them, then they have all the time they ever needed to build the nuclear program. So as you look at that math, you realize, wait a minute, we're moving in a direction. You can see where it's going. You need to act. And that's exactly where we were. The precise timing, I think, had to do with 40 people being in the wrong room at the wrong time. But directionally speaking, you could see where this was going. It had to be dealt with.
So to that, Bill Mitchell says, again, honest pollster now, says that may be, but there was minimal effort to explain to America why this strike was so vital. It took the place of the domestic policy agenda they voted for.
Which was no new wars.
Yes. And focusing only on America and only on getting our infrastructure and where it needs to be, and the stuff that we were hearing about Doge and all of the stereotypical ideas that we've always had about government were proven right about the waste, the fraud, and it wasn't just waste. I mean, we're talking about just massive criminal activity, and you know, from our own officials about how they were spending our money, and you know, from everything from illegals being registered. We're going to get to the illegals as we run out of time, or let's see, what time is it?
Yeah,
we got about 9 minutes.
Here's the thing. I just feel like there's only two options. Maybe I'm wrong. And I'm going to go back to what I said at the very beginning. Two options. We either let it alone or we do a regime change. Because let me ask you this question. If you don't believe that those are the two options, I want you to tell me this. How do you negotiate with this regime? I'll pause. I'll wait. How do you negotiate with this regime? They've proven they have no desire for long-term, lasting negotiations.
Yeah, well, and
not within our interest.
Well, and it's because they say, well, you know, why should we make a deal when we have these advantages? We have these geographic advantages, and we want to charge a toll now. We want to charge a toll to pass through the Strait of Hormuz, right? I mean,
all right. So our two options. Go back to them. We're just look, folks. It's simple. Those are our two options. You want to say like we sound like Tucker? I'm not sitting here trying to villainize Israel, and I know you don't always agree with Israel, but you're not sitting here trying to say Israel is the villain of every story in the Middle East. You're not doing that. But I can tell you this: those are the two options. You either let it alone, or regime change, because at this point, 4 months later, has Iran given you any indication? Multiple times they've told us we've got a deal. Here we go. Let's negotiate toward the final deal, but we're agree on this memorandum of understanding. What happens the next day? Bombs, missiles, attacking people in the strait, all of this stuff.
Right.
You got two options, folks. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah.
Either you get out of this or regime change. So tell me this.
How do you do regime change?
How do you do regime change without ground troops?
Right.
You're so naive if you think
and they know
you
this.
can do a regime change without ground troops.
And they know this, and that's why
have mercy.
That's why there are people pushing for a nuclear option, which is obviously insane.
But we're Tucker Carlson at this point.
Right. Well,
we're Tucker Carlson at this point because we're sitting here saying those are our two options. I don't like option B. I don't want ground troops in Iran trying to do a regime change. Mm-hmm. Is that ultimately why Tulsi left? She's massively anti-regime change. I don't believe so. I truly believe her story about her husband because he
Have you heard about her brother? Her brother's gotten picked up for some kind of. Her brother apparently is crazy, and
my God, anyway. Man, it's just all stuff. Listen, I am a conservative. If Trump was on the ballot again, I would vote for Trump. This November, I am going to vote R down the line. Okay, do not mistake me whatsoever. But I can tell you this: my 15-year-old son, all he talks about is joining the military. Do I want a conflict that starts right now that is still going to be going on when my son graduates high school and joins the military? Hell no. I don't want it. I don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon. But my God, what are we going to do? The world is an evil place. I trust God. You trust God. At a certain point, we've just got to give this to Jesus. Instead of, do I want to go in there and obliterate a country, including 7 million Christians? No. People need to wake up. You're like, well, you just gotta take them out. You gotta take them out. Mark Levin, you gotta do this. Huh? You gotta do it. That involves sending our sons and daughters to war over oil, over a potential nuclear weapon. For the love of God, folks, wake up. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm gonna lose all these people. I'm gonna get canceled. I don't know.
I don't think so, Rob. I don't think so, brother. But we do need more story. I'll say this in terms of the midterm aspects of all of this, because I feel like that's kind of what we're all focused on, because we don't want to have to live under Democrat rule. And that's what we're, for our own families here at home, we know what they will do. We need more stories like this. Donald Trump just revealed the number of non-citizens registered to vote in New Jersey is more than 5 times higher than Governor Sherrill's estimate. 35,000 is the new number just released by Homeland Security of non-citizens registered to vote in New Jersey. And matter of fact, she was actually contradicted because she tried to blame a third party for the registrations. Yeah. And the third party company came back and said, no, actually, that was the government.
Don't put this evil on me, Ricky Bobby.
That was actually the government that did it. And then, of course, do we have time for this? We're almost out of time, but here is CNN. They are trying their best to gaslight the public.
Because they're trying to defraud the system. They might have cast a ballot because they just weren't aware that they were incorrectly put on the voter roll.
They weren't aware that they weren't a citizen of the United States?
Wait a minute. Pause that. Hold on.
They
Did Abby just say that?
They didn't know they weren't supposed to vote.
I didn't know that I was here illegally.
I'm sorry, officer. I didn't know I couldn't do that. This Dave Chappelle famously said.
Are you Abby? Now she's stupid. She's incredibly stupid. She's not Jasmine Crockett stupid, but she's stupid. She literally just said they didn't know.
Let's listen again.
They weren't allowed to vote
because they're trying to defraud the system. They might have cast a ballot because they just weren't aware that they were incorrectly put on the voter roll.
They weren't aware that they weren't a citizen of the United States?
No,
they said in this instance that they weren't citizens. They were still
Is this accurately described as fraud when none of these people tried to
Yes, it's
register
legally
They
fraud.
cast ballots. 400 of them cast ballots. They had to actively go do that. I assume no one voted in their name. Maybe they did. I don't know. But they actively cast a ballot. Did they not?
What I want to,
an illegal alien gets put on the rolls, however they got there, and cast a ballot.
But you acknowledge that some people might actually be confused, because this has come up in courts before, where some people who are ineligible to vote are not aware that they're ineligible to vote.
They're just confused.
She's trying everything she can. She's trying everything she can to church this up, man.
I know, it's crazy, man.
She's trying to put lipstick on that big old fat pig.
This one thing that the right has alleged has been happening that we have sworn up and down does not happen, has never happened. Now that it's proven that and admitted that it did happen, well, they didn't know they couldn't do that. They just didn't know, Rob.
They just didn't know. They didn't know they were illegal. They didn't know that they couldn't vote. They didn't know that, that they were illegally doing something after they illegally came into the country and illegally applied for benefits.
Last clip, we got to go after this. Here's Allison Steinberg from Lindell TV and Elizabeth Warren.
Boom.
Hi, just a quick question for you. I know you're vehemently opposed to the Save America Act, but does the recent revelation in New Jersey with the aliens who are actually registered to vote change your opinion on getting that legislation passed?
Look, it is already illegal for someone who's not an American citizen to vote. Period.
But that's at least 400 aliens that did vote.
There are already laws to prevent that.
Well,
and if people have violated the law, then they should be prosecuted.
Easy. Anything's actually going to happen. I thought Democrats always said that there's no evidence of
I don't understand why you want laws that are already there. That makes no sense.
But
all right, that's all the time that we have. Rob, I appreciate you hanging out with me, brother. Thank you so much. It's always great to have you.
Appreciate it.
Shout out to our sponsor.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody in our chat as well. So this is good, healthy discussion. We do that on the right. They don't do it on the left.
That's true. That's true. Coalition party, we've got a different tier structure of ideas and priorities. Well, we move forward. Folks, that's all the time that we have. God bless everybody if they're watching. We'll see you here tomorrow, and have a great night.